What's up guys, this is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about creating an epic life on your terms. And today we go really deep. We talk about how to start living your dream life today, the 5 pillars to an epic life, and we're gonna really narrow down on what it took for me to get my dream life, how I followed the 5 pillars, and more specifically what you can do starting today to create that dream life, that epic life that you always wanted, and to figure out what it really looks like, because it's going to be different for everybody, and most importantly, we don't know what it will look like because we're so overwhelmed by everything that goes on. If you're ready for the next step, make sure to sign up for the free mini course or for the Epic Life audio course that actually comes out today after watching this video. So let's get started. What are the 5 pillars of my personal success and what I have learned works the best? Well, it pretty much comes down to this: physical energy management, so how you take care not only of your body, but your mind, how you declutter your thoughts, how you overcome limiting beliefs, and how to make sure that you're in the best shape possible mentally and physically in order to tackle that dream life of yours. Then we're gonna talk about relationships. Relationships are such an important factor in our life, and it's not just about intimate relationships. It also comes down to how do you act with your coworkers? What is your relationship with friends? Is your relationship with your family really at a point where it really helps you out to become the person you wanna be? How to really change those relationships. We don't really have to cut out people out of our life in order to create that perfect atmosphere that will help us to see what we actually want and to go for it, because it's going to be hard. This is not an easy task. People make it look like, oh, just start your dream life today, but what is keeping so many people from it? This is something that I would say everybody wants, and still 98% of all people never achieve their dreams, never achieve the life that they want, and it's because we're overwhelmed by everything that goes on around us. We're energetic creatures, and there's so much coming from other people, from the media we absorb, from just the environment we're in, that has such a big effect on us. And if we make it too difficult, if we make it too complex, we'll never get out of the matrix. But you can do it if you really narrow down on those 5 pillars. So we said the physical energy management, the relationship management. The third one is your wealth management. So that means what kind of abundance do you have in your environment? How is your car? How is your apartment? What kind of money are you earning? All of those aspects so many people completely neglect because it kind of sounds like, oh, I'm a good person, I want to care more about relationships. Who cares about making money? At this point, I'm gonna quote one of my favorite authors in this area, which is Jen Sincero. She said, "When did it become an either-or question? When was it that we decided we can either be rich, we can either be wealthy, we can either live in abundance, or we can have great relationships, or we can walk around in the park and enjoy our life?" It doesn't have to be an either-or question. It doesn't have to be a choice. We just have to be open for it, and we have to be willing to reprogram our mind in order to create those things, and to not get overwhelmed by everything that comes our way, but just take the next steps. So the next one is your vocation, your passion, your calling. I believe this is hugely important in our life. I figured out over a while that it's not always possible to take on everything at once. Like at some point, I first had to overcome my limiting beliefs that kept me from living an abundant life before I could actually go into my vocation, into my calling, into my purpose. I had to make sure that I don't have to worry about my security, that I was making enough money at my job before I full-heartedly jumped into my business. See, having a business is not for everybody. This is not the solution that will make everybody happy, and it's not everybody's calling. This is not for everybody, so don't get distracted by this. Don't think you have to do something like I'm doing it or how somebody else is doing it. Your vocation can be that you're an amazing mother. It can be that you're a great worker at this particular job because the people there believe in what you believe in. This really comes down to you. And we really gonna go deeper into this topic the further along we get in this video. And so the last pillar is priority management. So what does that mean? It means that even if you have all of those pillars in your life, even if you care about your relationships, your abundance, your vocation, if you don't make sure that you prioritize the things that are important over the things that are urgent, you're not gonna move forward fast enough. And if you don't, you're not gonna create a momentum. And the momentum is the one thing that gives you so much power to continue. A plane needs 40% of its fuel just to get off the ground. So realize that becoming the person you want to be, living this dream life, it's gonna take a lot of energy. So you really have to make sure that you prioritize the things that'll get you there over the things that actually feel more natural, that feel like home. And we're really gonna make sure that you understand how you can tap into this today, make really little tweaks in your lifestyle and start living it. Because it comes down to this. There's always room to grow. You'll never feel like, oh, I have achieved it. Now I'm completely living my dream life. The dream life is happening while you grow. I started living my dream life the first time I said to myself, today I'm gonna start being serious about this. Today I'm taking control. And in the beginning, it feels like, what am I fighting for? My life sucks. And if I wanna improve it, yeah, it's gonna suck a little bit less, but it's not gonna be amazing. That's what I thought. I realized though, the moment I stepped into my power, the moment I stepped into my truth, the moment I leaned into the dream life I wanted to live, I started feeling happy. I started feeling fulfilled, and I knew I'm living my epic life because it made me jump into a new dimension. Yes, this dimension needed to be built, but I was in control of building it. I was the one who made sure that I'll go where I want to go, and I'm putting in the steps. What makes us unhappy is not the fact that we're not living in abundance now. What makes us so unhappy is that we know we're not happy and we feel out of control. We feel helpless to change anything about it. Realize that this is a normal thing. Those are limiting beliefs that we're gonna work on, that we really tackle also on this channel as well as in the courses in order to help you to get to the next step. Because you realize the further along you get into this journey, the easier it gets. You start asking yourself, what was my problem? I had the power all along. And it really comes down to you understanding there's no need to judge yourself. It's okay where you are, and all we have to do is understand where we are, accept it, and then change something about it. It's such a common human bad habit that we don't want to look at the things that are not working, because that way we would have to admit defeat. It's a defeat to our ego, and our ego makes us feel we should be here, and if we would admit to ourselves that our life right now is here. And I'm not talking about what other people think about your life. I'm talking about what you feel about your life, how you really live your life. I was working in a 6-figure corporate job. I was having 5-star hotel visits. I had a Hilton Diamond status. I was flying throughout the world, and I still had a life that was here. And now I have a life that's here. See, really, it doesn't matter what society thinks about you. I actually took a step back. If you ask a lot of people in my last job or society at large, I had this amazing job, I had status, I had so much money securely, and I said, listen, that's not for me. And I didn't do that because I thought that's too much work for me. It's because I said, I want more. I deserve more. I'm in control of my life, and my life doesn't reflect the life I want to live. So I had to make sure to understand that I was going in a direction that is not going to take me where I want to go. And it was hurtful to understand that this is not just happening in my career, this is also happening in my personal life. I was single the majority of my 20s because I wasn't willing to look at myself and understand who I needed to change in order to find the right partner for me. I always wanted my partner to create an abundant life for me, to be the solution for me. It's not like I said it out loud, but this is what it was. And nobody can do this for you. Only you can. So the moment I started creating that life for myself that I wanted, that I knew I deserved, that I knew is going in the direction I wanted to go, I had a completely new look on life, and I was willing and able to take the steps to create the partnership that is really good for me. And so now I know what difference it makes to really make sure that you put yourself first, that you understand what it takes in order to be the person you want to be. And one of the main things is that you realize that this is where you're at. What is not working right now? Look at it, analyze it, and then grieve it, because it's painful. It really is painful to admit to yourself that this is where you're at. But you gotta start with that. If you're not willing and able to admit that to yourself, you're not gonna make those steps happen. I have so many clients that in the beginning of our journey, they had these goals of things they should be achieving within the next month. They should be able to write on their book every single day for at least an hour, when the year prior to that, they weren't able to write 1 page a week. You're not going to be able to have that kind of discipline, that kind of motivation, and that kind of habit to do all of those things if you haven't been able to do them so far. You have to start where you're at and then tell yourself something like, I'm going to make sure that every Saturday I'm going to write 1 chapter, or every Saturday I'm going to work on my book and I'm going to write at least 2 pages. Do that for 2 weeks and then you improve from it. You can only improve what you already live, what you already are, what you already feel, what you already have. So we gotta make sure that we see that. And then we prioritize the right things. You gotta start where you're at and then improve from that, because that is how you build that epic life. And the 5 pillars will really help you with this. See, in the last year alone, I have improved so much in those 5 pillars that I know even looking forward, the next year is gonna be even more epic. So let me give you an overview what these 5 pillars actually help me to create. So looking at my physical energy management, yes, first off, I do sleep really well. I decluttered my life like I've never had before. And it all started with me looking at my apartment. I made sure to really step up my game. See, I was somebody in my teenage years, I was rather messy. Then I got a little bit more tidied up, and people who came to my house always said, you don't have anything laying around. It looked so neat on the outside, but the things that were still missing from this equation were my cupboards. And then you may ask, who cares about your cupboards? We're talking about life. But this is a reflection of your mind. If you're okay with having messy cupboards, if you're okay with having messy kitchen or a messy closet, you will have the same thing in your life. I have not met one person with a completely cluttered home who had a decluttered life. And if we want to really move into the person we want to be, if we want to create the epic life of our dreams, then we have to declutter everything that it's in the way of us seeing what it is. It's like you sitting in front of a TV and the movie is showing of the life you want to live. That's the thing that you always dreamed about. That's the thing you wanted to see all your life. This is the thing you wanted to create, and it's right there in front of you. But what happens around you? There's so much noise from music, maybe there's a construction site inside. On top of everything, there's fog. So you can neither hear what's going on, nor you can see it. So what we actually have to do is we have to remove that drama. So many people thrive on that because it reminds us something we experienced in childhood. Can you imagine that? It's so true though. If your parents fought all the time, you're used to that kind of drama, and it feels uncomfortable to have silence because it doesn't remind you of home. And in order for us to actually move into the aspect of saying, I deserve that freedom, I deserve to have that peace, because that peace gives you room to grow. Why do people say, oh, you should put down your phone, you shouldn't look so much at social media? It's not because it keeps you from having ideas. It's because it clutters your mind. It keeps you from actually seeing that spark in you that makes you want to feel something. If there's too much going on, you cannot make those shifts. You cannot see where you want to go. And that's why physical energy management is so important. To get a good sleep, to get good nutrition, to really make sure that your body is healthy, that you meditate, and that you declutter your life. And in the last year alone, I've made, as I said, huge changes in this area. I know how I've changed, how I've grown. Now this apartment gives me even more freedom, more peace. I know that this place gives me the perfect opportunity to create the next step in my business and where I want to go. And so I chose this specifically. There was an intention behind it. And you can take those steps as well. Either if it's with gratitude practices, with meditation, whatever it is, it's yours, but you gotta lean into it and not neglect it. You need to be able to see the vision. You need to be able to recognize what's going on, and you need to have the power to make those shifts, because as we said, it takes 40% of the entire fuel to start a plane. And similarly, it is when you start to create that shift into the epic life of your dreams. That dream life of yours will take strength to adjust. So you need to make sure that your body and your mind is in the best shape possible. So let's look into the relationship pillar. This is such an important aspect because the people around you will have such a strong impact on you. And you can decide not only who's in your life, what kind of energy you allow around yourself, but also what kind of dynamics are okay for you. It doesn't have to be that you cut out your mother or your father out of your life, but you can make sure what kind of dynamic makes me feel good. How can I set boundaries that make me feel okay in this relationship? Maybe it's about you not sharing your dreams with certain people in your life. Maybe it's about you making sure that you focus more on yourself, but also it makes sure that you incorporate friendships, that you make sure that you look to have a support system around you. All of those aspects are important. There are so many videos I've done on relationships. You know, the audio course goes much more in depth, but it's so important that you don't neglect this part. I make improvements in those areas every single month. I make goals. I make sure that my friendships are intact. I make sure that I meet my friends often enough, but I also make sure that I have people around you who encourage me, who make me want to be the best person I am. Those are all aspects to really look into and to analyze and reflect what is going on, what am I satisfied with, and what can get better. In the audio course, we talk specifically about work relationships, intimate relationships, friendships, and your family. All of them are important, and you'll see how all dynamics can and should be different. You gain something from all of them, and each one of those areas should be level-headed. In relationships, it should never feel like you're giving more than you're receiving. It's all good that I give and I don't expect anything back, but I know that the energy is coming back. I've built my life in abundance. My cup of energy overflows. I give and I don't need anything in return because I already fill up my cup. This only happens because I make sure that I focus on all of those areas so importantly. But at the same time, I really expect people to respect me, to give me the boundaries I need. And if they don't, then I make the shift. It's not just about what kind of energy you create, but also about what kind of energy you allow in your life. This will make a huge difference, so really hone into this. Wealth management is very tricky. It's tricky because it's such a sensitive subject in our society. We always get the feeling that there's something wrong with it. If we don't have it, we're ashamed of it. Nobody really talks about it. And it really makes people uncomfortable. We're supposed to know how to do it, how to create wealth, but nobody teaches us. And then we get in this situation where we feel shameful that we want it, and then we go spend all of it because it makes us feel better for the moment, but we don't create abundance. At least I was like this, and I know most people are like this, and we can change this. You get to create wealth if you look into this area. If you see where's your life right now and what kind of income are you creating? How much are you saving out of that? Are you really able to aim for the dreams that you have? Are you making improvements? And if you're not, you have to pop the hood. You have to look at what kind of income am I creating with the life I'm living right now, and then see what will change that. It's not for everybody to start a business, but a business is a great way to achieve that. Maybe not today, but in the future, because it compounds over time. Or that you see how I did, that I realized, well, the job I was having 3 or 4 years ago, I knew that this is not where I could grow. I knew that this thing just limits me too much. So I was willing to step up my game, and I changed my jobs. I went to a top-tier consulting agency that expected more of me, but also brought me so much more. I was with people who are much better at their game. that encouraged me, that motivated me. I pretty much doubled my income, made over 6 figures, as I said, had all these additional benefits like my Hilton Diamond status, so I was staying at Hilton hotels pretty much all day, every week. And I realized that this was such a necessary step for me. But for me, it's not like this for everybody. You know what the next step up to this was? For me to quit my job. That is actually wealth creation, because people around me thought, oh, what are you doing? How can you give up something like this? But I knew that this is not enough for me. So I knew that the next step up is actually to remove myself from the situation and have less income for the first months until I make sure that I'm on a path where I can grow even more. So people didn't understand it, but it's not for them to understand. It's for you to decide where you want to go, how much wealth you want to create, and how you want to live your life. I do not want to be Jennifer Lopez. I do not want to make millions of dollars and work 20 hours a day. I just don't want that. I know that if you want a certain amount of success, and if you want something like her, for example, I would have to put that kind of work into it. But that's not what I want. But that doesn't mean that I can't live in abundance. I can, and you can too, and it's not necessary for you to work that much in order to create it. Yes, it might take a little longer. Yes, you would have to put in some work. It doesn't really happen if you don't do anything about it. But you have to decide how you're gonna do it. There are people who work their butt off and barely make it by. And then there are people who find the path of least resistance and create the abundance that they want. Most of it comes down to shame, because people ask themselves, who am I to want that kind of life? Who am I to gain all of this so easily when other people have to work for it so much? But the choice is yours. It's all about you understanding and trusting yourself that you will be a responsible, wealthy person. And this can be learned. I'm gonna create an audio course on this topic this year, definitely. It's not gonna be the next audio course because I have already one in the pipeline, but I'll definitely hone into this because this is such an easy aspect to learn once you take the time and once you're willing to look into it, and something we are not being taught. So make sure that you stay tuned because we're gonna talk much more about this. This will give you options. It will give you freedom. Money does not make you happy, but money gives you options to decide how you wanna live your life, where you want to invest your time and your energy into, and how you can create that epic life for you, for your family, and society. And then we get to the fourth pillar, your passion, your calling, your purpose, the thing that makes you jump out in the morning and want to tackle the day. We all know what it is deep down, but as I said, our life is so cluttered, there's so much going on left and right of us that we can't really see it. But you realize with time that this is something that you do probably on a daily basis. It's a way you show up for your friends, it's a way you already show up at work, and there are parts of us that we also keep hidden. So it's important to look into who you want to be in the world. So how do you want to show up? What kind of service do you want to provide? See, I always wanted to be the person who gives people advice about how to change their mindset. And I did this with my friends, I did this with my family, I did this without having any boundaries. I understood that the way I was doing it wasn't healthy, and I didn't understand that this was actually my calling. But you know what helped me to figure that out? It was the one thing that caused me the most pain, because I was willing to do things that actually weren't even healthy for me in order to get that, in order to do that, because I wanted to show up this way. And I did it, as I said, with the people closest in my life. And I always looked for people I can actually do this with. And I looked for people in my life that I could fix. Not understanding that I was just neglecting myself, that I was actually deflecting from what I needed to create in my life by focusing on other people's problems. And then I understood, okay, if I want to really work on my vocation, if I really want to live out my passion, I have to do this with boundaries. And I have to do this not with my closest friends and my family. My closest friends and my family, yes, I can help them from time to time, but they're supposed to be my support system. I support them, they support me, and then I look in a way where I can use my vocation outside of that. It can be that you help at an animal shelter. It can be that you're socially active. See, when I started this channel, I wanted to help people, and this was not my business. I did this because it gave me so much. And I did this for probably 3 or 4 years just as something that gave me the satisfaction of being who I want to be. For me to show up in the world and add to the conversation and add to creation in society the way I want to create things, the way I want to add, the way I want to serve. So this was really important to me. And as I said, it doesn't have to be your business. I was then able to combine my purpose, my calling, my vocation with my wealth creation, with my wealth management. But that's just me. I didn't even plan for this. This happened. I would have been perfectly fine to keep going with those aspects, the one that created wealth for my life. So it gave me options. It gave me opportunities to invest in my vocation, in the person I wanted to be. And at some point, I just realized, okay, what is the next step? The next step is to actually let go of my job because it took too much energy out of me that I could invest into being the person I want to be. And then I combined them. But I didn't plan for this. I already felt I was living so much of my epic life the moment I included that vocation part. And I know that it takes time to get to that point. Like sometimes it's necessary for you to just get the basis, for you to feel like, oh, I'm gonna be secure enough, I'm gonna have enough money to support myself. That gives you such freedom that you then say, now I'm ready to take the next step, to invest in my vocation, to invest into the person I wanna be from a purpose standpoint. At some point you'll get to this part. You don't have to do it all in the beginning, but you will know that when it's time to step up your game for living, like really living that epic life, your dream life, you'll have to look into this aspect as well. And then we get to the last pillar, which is priority management. And priority management, just as physical energy management, are pretty much the borders of this whole system. They both help us to create the relationships, the wealth, and the vocation and purpose we always wanted. But if you neglect those two, it's not gonna be easy. You're gonna take so much more time in creating this and you're gonna feel like you're not making progress enough. So priority management is actually to look into the things you do in your life that take up so much of your time but don't help you to move forward. If I want to put it in a nutshell, it really comes down to you deciding what things are urgent and not important, and what things are important and not urgent. So what is, for example, important but not urgent is for you to write your book, is for you to write that application for the next job. You already have a job, you already make sure that you have enough to eat, you're okay with everything, so you don't need that. But what is urgent, for example, is for you to do laundry because the next day you need clean clothes. So that is urgent, but not that important. But what is important, as I said, is that book that you need to be writing. And most people actually prioritize the things that are urgent and not important over the things that are important and not urgent. So come Saturday, you realize, oh, I first have to do my laundry. And before you know it, you watch TV while you do your laundry. You make sure that you actually take care of everything. Then you have to go grocery shopping. And before you know it, it's 4 o'clock and you have no energy left to write on your book. And this happens all the time because 95% of all decisions we make every single day on autopilot. So we have to stop our brain. We have to stop our mind and tell ourselves, listen, Saturday you wake up at 8 and from 8 till 10 you're gonna work on your book. It doesn't have to be much, but during that time you're only gonna do this. You're gonna focus on this thing, and once this is done, you still have time to tidy up. You still have time to do grocery shopping. You still have time to do the laundry because you don't need that kind of energy for that, as much energy as you need for creating the life that you want. And this really comes down to every aspect in your life. I chose this really simple example, but you'll see that all those choices you make come down to that. It takes courage, it takes time, and most of all, it takes energy to move into the direction of your epic life, to start living your dream life today. And you need to prioritize this over the things that come back over and over again. You will have time for them, because if you need clean clothes on Monday, you're gonna do the laundry. Even if it's at 10 o'clock at night, you're gonna do it. But you're not gonna write on that book because that one is not urgent. And that's why we need to prioritize it. And with little tweaks, you'll see how your life can change dramatically. So if you're ready to take the next step, if you know that you really want to change your life and you're gonna do what it takes, then check out the Epic Life audio course. It comes out today. The link is in the description. There you find also all the lessons that it entails. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.